So in my previous video, I introduced the concept to you that maybe it's not the amount of money you make that's keeping you broke. It's your programming, right? And then I said, it's not just your systems that's keeping you broke, it's your programming. And then I introduced you to a powerful formula that I discovered that changed everything for me. And that is mindset time systems equals wealth. Now, I want to explain to you why I set the formula up that way, because it makes a very big difference whether it's mindset plus systems versus mindset time systems. And I'm going to illustrate that for you right now. So what we have right here is we have mindset. Then I'm going to put systems, right, equals wealth. Now you're thinking to yourself, this is missing something in the formula. Yes, it's missing a time sign. But I want to illustrate to you the difference that plus and times makes. So if, just say for example, we assume, okay, we're going to make this mindset plus systems. And then if mindset equals 10, but systems equals 0, so 10 plus 0 is 10, right? Woo, 10 plus 0 is 10. You're still getting something out of the formula, right? Let's say mindset equals 10 and systems equals 10. Now you got 20. Okay, it's a little better. You're still getting something out of the formula. But when you change this to times, watch what happens. So you have 10, mindset equals 10, systems equals 0. What is 10 times 0? 0. Okay, what if systems is 0? I'm sorry, mindset is 0 and systems is 10. You're getting 0. So in order for this system to work, you have to have something on both sides. They have to come together. So then you take 10 times 10, and now all of a sudden you have 100. 10 plus 10 was 20, but 10 times 10 is 100. That's a factor of 5 that you're getting better. That synergy, when you multiply one by the other, is what begins to create true wealth. Now, I'm going to show you how you actually put this into practice in your life. But first, got to talk about the programming side. Have you ever purchased a laptop, which I'm sure most of you have? Either you got a desktop or a laptop of some type, right? So let's just say you've got a laptop. So here's your laptop over here. And there's the keyboard. All right, I'm not going to get very fancy with this, but there's your laptop. Now here's another laptop. There's your keyboard. Now, let's assume this one is a PC, and let's assume this one is a Mac. Now, what happens if I try to run, first of all, what's the operating system for each of these, right? The PC runs on DOS. Now I'm dating myself here. That's what it was called back in the beginning, right? The Mac runs on iOS, right? That's their operating system. If I take an Apple program and I try to run it on this Windows PC, what happens? You get an error message. Error. It's never going to work. Now, let's say I take a pure PC program. So we tried this over here, and that didn't work. So what if I take the PC program and run it over here? That's not going to work either. They have to be working on the same operating system. So I do this to illustrate, this is why people buy books on budgeting, and they buy books on money, and they read it and they're like, well, if I put this system into place in my life, it's gonna work. Yeah, it worked for the person who wrote it, but it worked for them because their operating system was already set up to receive that program. So when that program is downloaded into their life, it runs and it works the way it should. The reason people fail with their finances is because they're trying to overlay an operating system onto their lives that is in direct conflict with the programming that they have. They're trying to run Apple stuff on Windows. They're trying to run Windows stuff on Apple, and it's just not going to work. You know, there's a saying in the Bible, there's a scripture, and I'm not going to get all religious on you. I just want to use the scripture as an example. It says, strip off the old personality and put on the new. Why does it say strip off? Right? Why doesn't it just say, put on a new personality? Well, because if you try to run a new personality over an old one, what's going to happen? The old one's it's going to show itself. And it's going to conflict, and the two are not going to work. It's the same with your money. If your mindset, your programming is not right, no matter how much I teach you, or Dave Ramsey teaches you, or Susie Orman teaches you, or any of those number of the other experts out there teaches you, whatever you try to do that they say to do is not going to work unless you prepare your programming to receive the program. So you've got to reprogram your mind. Now, I'm going to show you how you go about doing that. Okay, so now we're into the reprogramming phase, and I'm going to show you how you begin to do that with 5 simple points. Okay? Remember yesterday I told you your brain will identify with what it already believes. See, a lot of people believe this thing. They say, I believe this because it's true. And they don't bother to question it. They just assume that it's true. But what if it's not that you believe something because it's true? Maybe if you flip that around and you say, it's true because I believe it to be so. Now that's a whole different ball of wax right there. When you come to something with preconceptions, it reinterprets 2 different things. Like, one person can look at rain outside their window and they can say, it's a horrible day. Another person can look at the rain outside their window and say, the grass is getting watered, the flowers will bloom, this is a beautiful thing. 2 people, same circumstance, 2 different interpretations. So what I'm going to do right now is give you some examples of how you can get rid of this broke operating system, right? We're going to take the broke operating system and we're going to trade that in for a wealth operating system. So get rid of the BOS, trade it in for the WOS. And we're going to go through 5 little points here that I can share with you. Number 1, your brain is a search engine. So it's constantly looking for evidence to confirm what it already believes. So if you think to yourself, I'll never get ahead. Every time you hear something on the news, every time something bad happens to you, your brain is going to confirm that and going to be like, see, I'm right. That's why I'm broke. If, however, you change that to, I'm learning to build wealth, now your brain, so you cross this out, now your brain starts noticing opportunities to build wealth, because your brain gets set up. It's got two different crews in it. One is positive and one is negative. And it will do whatever you want it to do. There's somebody heading up the positive side. There's somebody heading up the negative side. So like if you get out of bed at the beginning of the day and you say it's going to be a terrible day, negative side of the brain says, all right guys, boss says that it's going to be a terrible day. Let's get to work and make that happen. And you'll start to behave in such a way as to cause a terrible day to come about. However, if you get out of bed and you say, today's going to be a great day, positive side of the brain says, all right, guys, boss said it's going to be a great day. Let's get to work and make that happen. Your brain will start go to work to make that happen. It's the same thing with money. If you believe you're never going to get ahead, your brain's going to create situations so that you never do. But if you do believe that you're learning to build wealth, now your brain is operating from a system of a position of abundance and not scarcity, and it starts noticing opportunities. Just like when you buy a car, you notice that car on the road more often now. That's your reticular activating system at work. So because your brain is tuned to key in on that car, now you start seeing it. Same thing with opportunities to build wealth. If your brain is keyed into that, it's going to start building wealth. Now, let's move on to our next one. And the point here is identity comes before wealth. So, if you say to yourself, I'm trying to save. Remember what Yoda said? There is no try. There is only do or do not do. So, very wise saying from the little green guy. Don't say you're trying to build wealth, because then you're giving yourself all kinds of excuses. There's all kinds of outs, and this is why you're not where you want to be. Instead, you'll say to yourself, not I'm trying to save. I am someone who builds wealth. That's it. Now you're starting to assume the identity. You're becoming the person who builds wealth before you start doing it. The be has to come before the have. And this is why this is very important when it comes to reprogramming your brain. All right, now let's move on to the next point. So for point 3, that point there is you're replacing shame with curiosity. This is another line of code that you're putting into your brain. So you're replacing shame with curiosity. So instead of saying, I'm terrible with money, right? You're not going to say that, because if you say that, then remember, the thought precedes the behavior. If you say you're terrible with money, you're going to behave terribly with money. You're not going to trick your brain. Instead, when things go wrong, you're going to say to yourself, by replacing shame with curiosity, what went wrong? And what can I do better the next time? So then you're training yourself that failure is not inevitable. Failure is simply feedback. It's something that's teaching you to do better the next time. That's huge. That's a big difference. Instead of pre-programming yourself to be terrible with money, then you're saying, well, what went wrong? What can I do better next time? Now you're getting better each day. And that's a huge difference. Let's go on to the fourth point. And that is to expect opportunities. There's a lot of people who believe, well, people get rich because they're lucky or because they were born into it or that sort of thing. Luck is not a magical, mystical thing. Luck is, in fact, so if you believe in luck, that's not going to get you anywhere. Luck, when you strip it down and you see what it actually is, it's when preparation meets opportunity. Right? So we're scratching out luck, the old definition of luck, and we're saying that it's when preparation meets opportunity. So, for instance, if you're walking down the street and you pass a fancy restaurant and somebody comes running out and they say, we've got 4 free seats in here for anybody who's dressed to our standards and can come in. You've got one dude over here with a raggedy pair of jeans, flip-flops, and a t-shirt. He doesn't meet the standard. He's not prepared. Then you have another guy who has a nice jacket on, a shirt, and pants, and dress shoes. He meets the standard, so he can come in. That was an opportunity to dine in style. The guy who wasn't prepared didn't get it. It wasn't that the other guy was lucky. He was just prepared. He was ready. So when the opportunity came along, he took advantage of it and he was ready to eat in style. So when you prepare yourself by reprogramming your mind, layering in the new lines of code that will teach you how to behave differently with money, now you are at a point where you can actually create all the luck you want. Because now you understand that luck is not something that's random. Luck is something that you create. By being prepared so that when opportunity inevitably comes around, you're ready for it. That means your brain is going to constantly be looking for opportunity and you're going to see it wherever it appears. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to replace sometimes with always. Repetition is key here. It's been proven that you need to do something, a new thing, for 30 to 60 days on a daily basis in order for it to become a new habit, to kick out the old habit and put it in. So, we're not going to do things haphazardly. We're not going to do them sometimes. We're going to do them always. So each one of these things, we're going to incorporate into our daily activity every day for 30 to 60 days and watch and see how the old habits disappeared, replaced by new productive beliefs that give you new habits that send you on a trajectory towards wealth, because now your underlying programming, your operating system is ready to receive the new program that's going to be layered on. And then instead of an error code, you're going to get a productive response that's going to give you all the wealth that you're looking for. Now, here's where most motivational speakers stop. They give you the rah-rah, they give you the just think positively, think differently, and watch your money just flow into your bank account. Yeah, if it was that easy, everybody would be rich. But it's not. So, the reason is because they stopped at the mindset, but they don't have the systems down. So they've got 10 over here on the mindset, but the systems is still at 0. So what they have to do is now start layering in a new operating system, a new programming, I should say. You've already got your operating system set here with your mindset. Now you're going to put some new programming in. This is when you start to reprogram your brain. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to do this little thing. I'm going to change that to a big head. And you see where I'm going with this, right? So now, this is your brain. And we're going to change this DOS to WOS. And now we're going to start layering in your wealth operating system. Now, there's lots of things out there. There's Dave Ramsey, like I said. There's Susie Orman. There's a bunch of other people out there who will tell you what you should and should not do with your money. I know my system. I know it worked for me. I know it works for my clients. So I'm going to share my system with you right now. And that system is SMART. So I'm going to tell you how each line of code of SMART works. So, alarm went off. So, here we have self-knowledge. Now, how does that translate here? So, self-knowledge means understanding why you relate to money the way you do, what is the sum total of things that got you to where you are, and what that's taught you about money and makes you do what you do with money. Once you understand that, you can start making better, more informed decisions. It was the same thing with my relationships. Like I kept going from one bad relationship to another. It's not until I went to therapy that I understood, well, this is what you've been searching for, and you've been thinking that these women have been able to give it to you. I had to give it to myself first before I could start thinking about having a healthy relationship. And thank God I went through that process because it completely changed the way I see things. So now, with self-knowledge, when you understand what it is that led you to where you are and you test those former beliefs that you had that don't benefit you, and you say, okay, well, this is true, this is not true, I'm going to replace it with that. Now you can make more abundance sourced decisions instead of more scarcity sourced decisions. So that's how you use self-knowledge. So that's your first line of code that you're going to lay in. Your next line of code is going to be monetary awareness. That means knowing your numbers. So instead of thinking to yourselves that, well, my bank account right now, my numerical situation is telling me that I'm a loser and I'll never get anywhere, don't look at the numbers as judgment. Open up your banking app, look at your bank account. Feel free, open up your wallet, look at the cash in it. The cash is not judgment. The balance in your bank account is not judgment. It's feedback. So we're going to think of your numbers here as feedback. And feedback allows you to fix. Feedback allows you to fix it. So you can't fix what you don't measure, and your numbers are your measurement. So you're going to figure out, where's my money going? How much do I have? How much is coming in? How much is going out each month? What do I own versus what do I owe? And once you have all of those numbers, now you can move on to the next line of code, right? And that's allocated spending. So allocated spending, I use this term because everything you do with your money, you spend it. You're going to spend it one way or another. A lot of people like to think of this as budgeting. Well, it's not really budgeting. And when you come at it with the mindset of budgeting, then you get the feeling of restriction, because a budget is limits, and you can't go beyond them. Now, those can be safeties, those can be guardrails, but when you start thinking about allocated spending, now you're giving every dollar a mission. So those dollars are going out, they're doing what you tell them to do freely, of your own choice. However, you know you have so many dollars and you want them to accomplish so many things, so you're going to assign what each dollar is going to do. And you're not going to end up wondering at the end of the month, where did my money go? Instead, you're going to know where it went because you're being intentional and you're doing it with a purpose. Now, next we have the R for ready cash. And with the ready cash, a lot of people think YOLO, right? They're like, well, you only live once. I might as well have fun because tomorrow's not promised. Okay, yeah, you could think like that. But when you understand that the YOLO, scratch that. Like, where are you at right now? How do you feel? Are you happy with where you are? Is your mind at peace? If it is, then go. Don't watch this anymore. Go spend your money, do whatever you want. But if you're not at peace with your current financial situation, then you have to understand that peace comes before luxury. That doesn't mean that you can't have luxury. You just have to put peace first. And what is going to come through peace? What is going to give you peace? An emergency fund. Plain and simple. A bucket of cash that if something goes sideways, it's there for you. And that's why I always tell you, start off with your $1,000 beginner emergency fund and build it from there. You will have peace of mind like you never had before, because you won't have to worry about going further into debt, swiping your card to meet this emergency. And if you don't have credit, then you don't go into panic mode because you have a cash reserve to go to. Ready cash equals peace of mind. Once you have that, then you can go have luxury. But the peace of mind comes first. Next, we come to targeted credit use. So targeted credit, what is that? Well, that's using credit in such a way that it leverages the acquisition of assets instead of the acquisition of debts. And assets are real estate, a business, or some other opportunity that may come along. Manolo Blahniks, Cartier watches, Callaway golf clubs, those are just things that you buy and they lose value over time. You want to use credit to acquire assets that then generate cash flow so that you can live on the cash flow. So the asset is funding your lifestyle. If the purchase is not funding your lifestyle, you need to stop and question it. If it's not getting you a stream of cash that's funding your lifestyle, then you need to second guess it. Get the stream of cash first and fund your lifestyle from that. And if you've already made the mistake like I did and so many other people did, the vast majority of Americans, and you've dug yourself into toxic debt, then you need to have a plan to pay it off. And I always believe in the debt snowball method. That's what got me out, and that's what gets my clients out. So you line up all your debt, smallest to largest, and you hit them that way, boom, 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 boom. As your means get bigger, your debts get bigger. And you can, meet them where they are and where you are. And you get quick wins in the beginning. That's why I prefer the debt snowball method over the debt avalanche method, where you're going after your insanely high credit card that may have a huge balance and you're chipping away at it like this. But if you go at the smallest one first, at least you can knock that one out and get yourself a quick win. It feeds you, gets you going, keeps you going along the way. All right, so now you've got your mindset. This is your new mindset. Now you've got your system over here. You've got SMART. So when you multiply your mindset by your new system, now you start building real wealth. And that, my friends, is the secret equation to building real wealth. Mindset times systems gives you wealth. So what I just laid out to you right here, this formula is actually what we're going to be putting into practice in my Summer Money Reset Challenge. In this challenge, we will be going step by step through each one of these things and seeing how to apply them in our lives to achieve whatever goal it is you want to get by the end of summer, by Labor Day. That is, do you want an emergency fund? Do you want to pay off a certain debt? Do you want to purchase something? You can do it if you join the Summer Money Reset Challenge. You can go to my website at intentionalmoneysolutions.com, click on the Summer Money Reset Challenge button. It'll take you to the page where you can get more info and sign up. Look, I know this is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be rich. There wouldn't be debt collectors. Everybody would be wealthy. But money takes work. And reprogramming your mind is part of that process. So if you need help with that, join my Summer Money Challenge. If you don't want to do that, at least schedule time with me. And we can go through where your current situation is and I can give you some free tips on how to make it better for you. All right. I hope this benefited you. I hope it left you with something. If it did, then use it, because unless you use it, you just wasted time watching it. All right, guys. Have a great day, a fantastic week, and I'll see you again soon.